It's dizzy because your balance is off. Yeah, could be your ear.
Maybe we are one. Hey, Susan.
No, I still just only have one.
I've never heard aging phrased that way. Going around the sun.
All the time though, right?
That was painless.
It does make it painless, doesn't it? It sounds more like an accomplishment.
Move down so you can see the screen.
There's panelists and attendees. Oh, I see attendees. Okay, that's our guest. Excellent. Okay, so I can promote the panel.
Oh,
you like or no that?
No,
Good.
yes.
I see my face. Oh, I don't know if I see her on the screen. Oh, now we're getting it. Okay, there it is. Janet?
Yes, hello, hi, can you hear me?
Thanks, we had some slight technical difficulties, but we're so glad you're here now. Okay, I think we're good to go, Shelley. Thank you so much. Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Your shoulders good.
We have an agenda?
Yep.
Everybody have an agenda?
Okay. All right.
It looks so big. Oy.
It's an optical illusion, although it is a decent sized room. We're pretty lucky to get some space.
We also have Val coming in by Zoom.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need to keep an eye on that just for a minute to let Val in as a panelist and Dominique as well, but we can get going if Janet, if you need to get started with the presentation and we need to kind of just get the show on the road here, then I'll stay up here and monitor for other attendees.
I'm on your timeline, that's fine.
Good morning, one and all. We have a quorum present. I would like to open this meeting of the Gloucester Council on Aging. We are meeting in person and also via remote hybrid Zoom conferencing. We're on the second floor of the Rose Baker Senior Center Conference Room. Today is Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, and it is roughly 9:30 in the morning. For the purposes of the recording secretary's voice recognition, because we've been around the table starting to start. Barry McKay.
Nancy Pappas,
Tim Good.
Michelle Shimataro,
Elise Sinagra?
Rosalie Castro, Susan Goodall, Alicia Webb.
And on the Zoom screen, would you identify yourself, please?
Janet Sekel Sarati.
Thank you. See, Val Gilman, I hope will be joining us by Zoom as will Dominique. Betty Monroe has an appointment in Boston and cannot be here. And Suzanne is not here.
No, unusual.
She may be on her way. So the next item is public oral communications. Seeing no one in the audience, we can move then on to the approval of the minutes, which would be the minutes of November the 13th. Are there any additions, subtractions, or changes? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of November 13th, 2024 as written?
Brunsel.
Thank you, Michelle. And second by Barry. Is there any further discussion? Because we're on Zoom, it has to be done by voice, starting with Barry. Barry McKay.
Michelle. Rosalie. Susan.
Okay. Good. All of you approve? All approve. Great, thank you. See, Gloucester Health Department, we'll move on that. Maybe Dominique will join us in the same, actually, we don't have anybody from the Y here either today. So moving right along. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Nancy Pappas. I'm the principal assessor. And Tim Good is one of the assessors at the assessor's office. We're here today to just give you a little overview about the exemptions that we offer to eligible taxpayers. Exemptions are basically credits towards one tax bill. And it's not something that has to be paid back. Many of these have requirements that have to be met. You have to own and occupy your home as your domicile. So it's not for someone who's in a second home. There are also sometimes age, income, and or asset requirements, depending on the type of exemption. But that is not the case for veterans, which there are many veterans exemptions, or the legally blind. There is also a tax deferral, which postpones payment to a later date. So it's not a credit, but it allows people to stay in their home if it makes it easier for them to not pay a portion or all of their tax liability in any given year. And it would get paid at a later date upon sale of the home, or if they passed away and the property went to the heirs, it would get paid at that time. There are many types available. I'll just kind of give a brief overview. We have a senior 41C. There's also a senior that's a clause 17D. The veterans, there are many. There's the tax deferral that I just spoke of, water and sewer debt exclusion for seniors, and Community Preservation Act. So there are quite a few.
Water and sewer debt.
Water and sewer debt, since they transferred some of that to the tax rate, which lowered the water and sewer rates. There's a formula for that, that if a senior is paying more because of this, say they don't use a lot of water and sewer, so their benefit is not as great as it would be for some other people, and they're paying more on the tax side,
Yeah.
they can receive an exemption to level that out. So the qualification date each year is July 1st, and it's an annual application every year. The deadline is not until April 1st, so they have plenty of time to apply.
Does that start on January 1st, April, or?
It's based on a fiscal year, so start of the fiscal year is July 1st. They can apply anytime up till April 1st to have that credited toward their, for this year, it would be fiscal 25 tax bill. And our assessing staff, on the clerical side, we have Madonna Fleming and Marianne Peters, as well as any of the assessors can help individuals, but Madonna is very good. She knows a lot of the seniors now. We assist people in determining what is the best exemption for them to apply for that will provide them maximum benefit.
Yeah.
And she helps them determine what they need to bring in, you know, if they need help filling out the application, and she also sends reminders to those that have already applied, just to make sure they don't miss the deadline. If you recall, some of you may recall that the mayor had initiated some changes to the exemptions last year, which was then approved by the city council. And this was very beneficial because it increased the benefit for the senior, the 41C. That went from $500 to $1,000 for the credit that they received. And it also changed some of the requirements to meet the thresholds. So it was always 70 years to apply, and now that got dropped to 65. And they also raised the maximum income and asset levels, which allowed more people to qualify. The other senior exemption is the 17D, which is only $175 benefit. So what we saw is some of the people that were receiving the 17D now qualified for the 41C. So they were able to get a much higher credit, which was excellent. And we had new applicants because you had that age difference from 65 to 70 where they could now apply. So we did get more applicants for the 41C. The 17D went down a little bit because a lot of those people we feel probably moved up and got the greater benefit, which was good. We also changed the deferral in terms of the maximum income. It was very low at $30,000 a year. And now it goes by the Department of Revenue circuit breaker tax income limits. So for this year, it's 69,000, which is vastly different than what it was. We had a few more applicants for that, which was also nice because it really limited who would qualify. And the legally blind, and this is one where it doesn't require much, it's just a certificate of blindness from the Commission for the Blind. And that increased to $500 for the benefit. So that went up a little bit. We took the maximum that we could. These are all local options that the state allows us to adopt. So we just adopted local options that provided better benefit.
What's the definition of maximum asset? What's
Asset
that
is
include?
pretty much all your, if it's stocks, bonds, those types of things, money's in the bank, anything that you have that is basically savings more or less. And then the income is gross annual income.
Okay.
We also don't include the residence itself or motor vehicles.
I was just gonna ask that, yeah, okay.
So it's a two family or a one family, that doesn't matter?
That changed last year as well. So before, if a taxpayer qualified for the 41C and they had a two-family dwelling, it was prorated in terms of what they could receive for the benefit because they didn't occupy the whole dwelling.
Yeah.
Now we've changed that, so up to a three-family taxpayer can still benefit and get the total exemption amount. What you see a lot is people are either renting at below market to family or something of that nature. So this enables them still to receive the whole benefit as opposed to, say, getting half of it if they were in a two-family home.
Is the rent considered income?
The rent is considered income. But like I said, we see a lot of people come in and they say they're renting to a family member.
Yeah.
They're either not charging them or they're charging them something
Yeah.
that's not really exorbitant in terms of rent, and they still may qualify this way. You know, it does depend on the income.
Yeah.
But if they do qualify, then they can receive the whole exemption, which is a bigger benefit than they were getting in the past. And the veterans exemptions, those normally require a 10% disability, the majority of them, but there are also exemptions for people that were prisoners of war, received the Purple Heart or Gold Star parents. And then when people do apply, Madonna or whoever's looking at the application, we always ask, do they want to apply for the water and sewer exemption as well as the CPA? Normally a taxpayer can only get one, but those are a little different. So we're really good in the office about trying to help people to,
I know, I've been meaning.
apply. It's everyone loves Donna. They only want to talk to Donna now. But she's awesome. Very
She
good.
really
Yeah.
goes above and
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
She's my childhood bestie. Donna and I were like that growing up together. I love
There's
her.
a tenor in your office. It's really.
Yes, it is. It's nice. And it's difficult too because there is documentation we need. We need income documentation, asset documentation, sometimes age. So it takes a little to get the person up and running in the first year, but then they're pretty good after that. And we always will help them if they need
If a
assistance.
person has a green card but is not a citizen but owns a building, can they apply for these things?
That's interesting because there's also like durational occupancy requirements for some that you have to have been in Mass for a certain time.
Yeah.
And owned your property for that time. So if they were the owner of the property and met all those requirements, I don't see why they wouldn't be eligible. We'd probably look into it a little further just to make sure.
Yeah.
But on the face of things, it seems that they would meet.
Yeah, there's no citizenship test that we're aware of. So
Good. Thank you.
And the other thing is I spoke with Barry a year ago and decided that we would come out on an annual basis to talk to the seniors. Which last year we did around this time of year. We're going to be doing that in January, this coming January, which is also a good time because people just got their bill. So it'll be fresh in their mind. They still have till April 1st
Do
to
you have a
apply.
date set in January?
We're looking toward was it the 23rd?
It was it was the 23rd. It's the Thursday, which I think is the 23rd. Let's see.
Got it in the minutes.
Yep, so it's the 23rd and they're gonna present at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And then after the presentation, they'll present for about 45 minutes, Nancy estimates, and then they're gonna move downstairs to the lobby where they're gonna be able to speak to people individually, to field some individual questions until, I think you said you'd block off till noon.
Yes.
So
we're going
yes,
up till
and it's a Thursday, so we'll give them a soup and a
I was
sandwich.
gonna say have some
We have
lunch.
good lunch, so.
And it's my
Um,
birthday, dear. This way, we think if we do it annually, it's fresh in people's mind.
Yeah.
Right.
They might be more comfortable here asking questions than in the office setting. They're here anyway, a lot
Right.
of times, so kind of kills two birds with one
Right.
stone. And we'll just plan on keep coming back and, giving a little refresher. Things do change occasionally. There's new legislation for veterans exemptions that's going to be looked at. So there could be changes coming up in the future as well.
Cool.
I think that once folks see you guys here, if they had any hesitation about going to the assessor's office and they see just how incredibly friendly and welcoming and helpful the face of the assessor's office is, then they will not be so hesitant to go to the assessor's office afterwards because
True.
everybody in the office, Nancy, is just so great.
Yeah, just an additional note, because people get a little nervous sometimes about giving out their personal information,
Yes.
income and all that, it's confidential.
Yep.
It's not a matter of public record. It doesn't get shared anywhere else.
Wow.
When we get rid of it, it gets shredded, doesn't just get put out, so
We'll emphasize
people don't
that
have to
again in a
worry
minute.
about that.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, heroes work. Thank you. Any questions going on? You have a
You
good
guys
day.
are great.
You're welcome to
I have a
stay.
question.
However your day looks to you.
Our day is always looking busy, unfortunately.
Would you like to hide here?
Thank you, Nancy and team. You guys are awesome.
Oh, good, Val. Thank you. Good morning, Val Gilman is joining us.
That's a pretty shirt, jacket, whatever.
Thank you. It's my COVID shirt right now because I'm not feeling very well, but
Oh, you look great for someone who doesn't feel well, Val. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much,
Um,
Lisa. You made that sound very simple and easy to do. Thank you.
I didn't even know it existed, so there you go.
A lot of people ask us, because we're on the board, about information, so it's good for us to have this.
Yes.
So we can relay it to them and say how easy it is and how simple you make it sound. Thank you both. Nice job.
Thank you. Can we share the screen, so the Val is good, but also, Janet is back on the screen?
Yeah, Janet is on the screen. Val, you see Janet, right? Janet Seckles.
Yep, let me see if so what am I doing here?
But we can't.
Let me go back to the gallery view.
Well, because it's on speaker view, so when Janet starts to present, she'll be big.
Terrific. Well,
Yeah.
Janet is up next. And Super Barrett, would you take that?
I'll do the quick introduction.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Janet, for joining us this morning. Janet, for anyone who hasn't read their website, and I've kind of been advocating everybody read the website for Friendship Works. Janet has been with Friendship Works for 40 years. And Janet has over 40 years of experience at serving older adults and connecting older adults with friends to reduce isolation and loneliness in the greater Boston area. Janet graciously offered to talk with the Gloucester Council on Aging Board today about considerations in building programs to help seniors and other groups become connected to communities to reduce isolation and loneliness. When Janet concludes, I encourage the board to ask Janet questions as time allows. Janet, could you give us an overview of building programs for older adults to reduce isolation and loneliness, a brief overview of where Friendship Works is today, and then some guidance on the possibility of Gloucester beginning a friendship-like type program, our startup. And
Okay,
again, thank you for coming.
thank you. Well, it's delightful to be here, and at the end of my career, it's nice to share, the ups and downs and pains and, of having been here for over 40 years now. And I know you have many other things on the agenda, so I will try and keep it short, but
You have plenty of time. You have
if I-
plenty of time, Janet.
okay, and if I don't answer your questions, 3 questions, please come back and say, oh, please point at that, or interrupt me, or if you have questions along the way. And I can also, after the meeting, answer the questions or speak to any of you. So Friendship Works was, I'll give you a little bit of history first. I'll give you, talk to you about history, mission, and then the actual work, their day-to-day work of running something, and then where other programs similar to us, may be throughout the country and some networks that you can connect with. So that's what I'm hoping to cover. So the history is actually, we started in 1984. We were, at that time, we got a seed grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which I just say to people because it's interesting that one of the largest healthcare foundations in the country funded an interfaith volunteer caregiving program in 1984. Their president at that time, who unfortunately is now deceased, of the National Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, kind of thought outside the box and had seen some research that people who age alone don't fare as well as those who age in community or family or friends around. And some of that's just very practical. There's nobody to take you to the doctor. There's other things, and I don't remember the exact parameters of the research that had been done that showed that, but we all can feel that. We know what it's like, or can imagine what it's like to be alone at a time when, you really need the motivation or the real assistance of other people to get your things done, get life done, but also motivated to get out when you don't have, no longer have employment and things like that and don't have family around. So we, out of another organization, we started a program and it was called Match Up Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers. For about 7 years, we were a program of a place called Boston Aging Concerns. And then in 1991, when there was a big recession, they decided it wasn't a viable program. I had been there all along and that we had 3 months to leave. And we decided instead that it was very important. It was another recession and we would try and make it on our own, which we did. And here we are in 2024 and we're going strong. So it was the right decision. And it was also a time, and until about maybe 8 years ago, about 5 years ago, people were not talking about social isolation. I mean, that was our primary thing. Those of us who are older, isolated, not spring chickens, not children, not dogs, whatever, aren't often seen as cute, aren't a sexy issue to deal with. And people didn't really want to hear about frail, isolated elders. That has changed a lot. And as we all know, social isolation and loneliness is spoken about everywhere. The research that is done is incredible. It's become a very, very interesting field to be in also because there's the neuroscience, there's the physical science, there's the emotional, the psychology, all behind all of this. And you can't find a place that's not talking about it, both for old and for young. It actually started getting in the news before COVID. People think it was COVID. It wasn't really COVID. It was before COVID when there had been some research done on the cost of social isolation and loneliness and seeing the millions and billions of dollars it was costing Medicare and the healthcare system, that people who were lonely and socially isolated were sicker more often, didn't have the support systems, wound up at the doctors more often. So when money talks, people pay attention in our society. And so all of a sudden those of us who are in the field started seeing it in the news about the cost, the impact. And again, no surprise, mind, body, spirit, for those of us who are tuned to that. It's kind of a newer notion in the last 20 or 30 years, the Mind Body Institute, but I think we all know what it's like when we're not feeling emotionally well. It's harder to you don't have as much motivation to get well physically and vice versa. They're definitely connected not all the time, but for some of the time. So, and then COVID came, and of course, then people's sensitivity to what it's like to be isolated or lonely. After COVID, of course, most of us are able to get back to our lives, but there are now, and there will always be, unfortunately, until we solve this and our vision is brought to fruition, people who live their lives the way that some of us had to live it in COVID, but they live it 24/7 all year long. And it could be in your town in Gloucester where there are people hidden behind their curtains. You don't see them, so, it doesn't come to mind. So that's a little bit of the philosophy and what the history of where it is. So we started out and our mission, Friendship Works' enduring mission, is to reduce social isolation, improve quality of life, and maintain the dignity of older adults in the greater Boston area. And we do that. Our vision really is to create connection in order to end elder isolation. So, but we do that with an intergenerational group. We have 5 programs. I guess I'll get into the 5 programs, which are just basically, and if you saw our website, right, we've had different programs throughout different decades because sometimes time in history needs something else. Sometimes there's funding, but our primary programs have not changed. Our primary programs have been friendly visiting and medical escort. Those programs have been with us since the very beginning for almost 41 years, or now over 40 years. And friendly visiting is really about matchmaking. It's like just not for marriage, but for friendship. So sometimes it's hard to get out and meet new people, particularly, if you're not getting your network is pretty small, or if you're not able to get out of the house very often. So I say we bring the world in to people who can't get out, and we bring people out who are able to, out into the world. So we with the friendly visiting, we get referrals or people self-refer from the healthcare system, from a COA, from all different places, from a family member, an older adult who would like to have a new friend, who would like somebody to come to visit or to get out with, take a walk. We visit that person in their home to see what it's really like. We won't do that. We won't call them unless we know that they have said they want this. And then we recruit volunteers. And for us, we recruit volunteers 18 and older. There are friendly visiting programs in other parts of the country, including in Massachusetts, not as robust as ours by any means, but there are a lot of different places that do friendly visiting. Some of them, it's just seniors with seniors, which is great. We have a very so there's not a judgment or anything, but there are many programs who mostly the volunteers are all older adults, whatever you consider an older adult these days, with an older adult. For us, it's we're in Boston. There's a lot of schools. There's a lot of young people. There's a lot of desire amongst younger people to have a relationship with an older adult, and older adults love having a relationship with younger people. So it's not children when we say we're intergenerational or multi-generational. It's really 18 and over. And many of our volunteers are in their 20s and 30s, young professionals. But we also have volunteers in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I don't think we've had a volunteer who's 100 yet, but of all ages. And we recruit volunteers, we meet with them, we find out what their needs and desires. And really, when you think about making a match, we're looking at creating a friendship. So we're looking at people's interests, time of day that they can visit, if somebody cares if it's a man or a woman, all sorts of things that you would want to know. Do you love baseball? Is it that you want to get out and walk? Do you want to play games? What do you want to do? So we look at both sides, and our staff make the match, and then we check in on them. So I can tell you more details, but that's basically matchmaking. And it's for visitation once a week, 1 to 2 hours a week. That's the commitment. And depending on the time of day, that works for both participants. I hate to use the word volunteer recipient because we see it as reciprocal, but sometimes for speaking you do, but for both participants or for the host, is it better to come on a weekend, in the evening, during the day, what works? And that's part of the match also, so that matches up. We have also then our other primary program is our medical escort program. And that is where we have volunteers. It's the hardest program for us to recruit from. I don't know that would be true in Gloucester, but the city, driving around the city and the whole hospital system is pretty complicated. But people who have, we recruit people who have availability during the day, even if it's just 1 day a week, to go with someone to a medical appointment, stay with them, go into the appointment if they request it, make sure that they get home safely. So it's door through door. Sometimes it's just one way. As we know, if you're going to get a colonoscopy, you don't really, you're not allowed to have it unless somebody, signs you out and goes home with you. So many people don't do those things, don't take care of themselves because they have no one. And it really is a big favor to ask of somebody. Even those of us who have networks, sometimes it's really hard to find somebody who has that availability during the day that you're not going to feel like you owe something to take you home from an appointment. But particularly those people don't have it. So many appointments, it's one way, but the rest of them are all round trip. And it is about lowering anxiety. Sometimes it's about anxiety. Sometimes it's about mobility or being somebody in a wheelchair. Sometimes it's somebody who's blind or visually impaired, all sorts of reasons that. And also, it's just a really good idea to have somebody with you when you go to a doctor's appointment. And a lot of times also, if you're worried about, am I actually going to find, the place? Am I going to get there on time and things like that? You're thinking about all of those things. And then by the time you get to the doctor's office or the nurse or whatever, you're so stressed out that you're not doing it. So the whole idea is to make the medical escort a friendly visit in that way. We in Boston don't do much transportation. It's an escort. We'll go on the ride, the Uber, the city's older adult transportation. Many of our volunteers don't have cars. Again, that might be different in Gloucester, where more people would have cars and might make it easier for them to use their car. And then, of course, there's those insurance issues, and I can talk about that. But that's not really as big an issue as people think it is. I will just say that to you. So medical escort and friendly visiting have been our primary programs. From the friendly visiting, we've done different things, but I'll just talk about what we're doing now, which is we have a friendly helping program. And that's just, I say those things that those of us who are able-bodied take for granted. Packing for a move, getting down on the floor in your closet to clean it up. But if you're 85 years old and you have some mobility or knee issues, you can't get down to do that. So somebody else can come in for 3 hours, help you clean it out, decide what to throw out, what to put on a shelf where you can reach it, what to give away, put in a box and send to a friend if you want to do that. Raking, the lawn, the time that somebody else is coming to do that. Packing for a move, the emotional pieces of helping with that. So anything that takes up to 3 visits of 3 hours each, it can be a one-time visit or up to 3 visits a project. We call that friendly helping. And it can help with computers, your computer's not working, you want somebody to come in and help troubleshoot. It can be something that's joyous. So it's the necessity and quality. So you are in Gloucester, we are in Boston, we're surrounded by water, and yet there are people who can't get to the ocean. And I remember this might speak to you, one of my very favorite and most heart-rendering friendly helping programs is that we had a gentleman who lived in Boston about, I think he was like 4 or 5 miles though from the sea. But he had been a seaman his whole life. He had lived on the sea, he had fished, he had done this, but he hadn't seen the ocean in several years because he had mobility issues, was a bit impoverished. So we got a volunteer who drove him to Revere Beach, and they sat by the ocean. They sat in the car and then they got out and he helped him sit on a bench, and they just sat by the ocean for a little while, had a snack, and then went home. I mean, it's just so amazing, like it's crazy that he hadn't done that in a few years. Or it might be visiting a spouse in a nursing home that it's harder for somebody to get to because they themselves are frail, or going to the cemetery on the anniversary of a loved one's death. So again, these are necessity of life, helping fill out a form for somebody who's visually impaired, to doing something, going to an art museum with somebody who wants to see an exhibit. So it's again, and that's friendly helping. And then the 2 other programs, we have are more group programs, or somewhat so. We have a program called Pet Pals, and that's bringing the unconditional love of a pet to persons who live in nursing homes and assisted living. So it's our outreach to those who live in long-term care, and many who can't have a pet, don't have it, maybe never did, but that mostly dogs, sometimes a cat, a guinea pig, or a bird. Bringing them creates connection between the residents, brings that joy and that love, gets people to talk to each other about the pets they used to have, brings support to the staff that are there. It's actually quite remarkable, and I'm happy to talk about that more if you want, but I won't spend too much time on that because I don't know if that's something you would get into or not. And then of course we have an animal behaviorist to make sure that that animal is okay to do that. So, I can talk at some point now or in the future about how, how we vet people and pets and things like that, and how we make the matches. And the last program I'll talk about is Music Works. We've been doing that for now 8 or 9 years, maybe. It is supported by actually an assisted living that has an endowment. As till now, though, we're gonna have to do fundraising for that too. And all of our programs, for Friendship Works, we're a nonprofit, so we always have to fundraise to make our work happen. It's not government run. But Music Works is about bringing music. That's the only thing that's not volunteer driven. We pay musicians, both Spanish and English speaking songs, others, to go to elder buildings. So it's more what you would call senior citizen buildings. Some of them are subsidized, some are not, to bring the joy of music. And it's not performing for, it's with, it's getting people to sing. We now started doing Zumba, some of them with music. We've done music bingo. We will bring instruments. We have a drum circle. We do different things. And it's a way of, if any of you live in apartment buildings, in many buildings, people don't know their neighbors. Like you could be living there and somebody moves out and people don't talk to each other, and the construct of the building, depending on the building. And everything that Friendship Works does is about creating connection. So there's great reason to bring music, even, a concert to anybody, because music is so visceral and so important. But for us, we say other people can do that. When we bring music, it's about how do we use music to create connection between people. So for the sake of music itself, but also as a means of getting to know your neighbors and interacting and having a community experience that maybe the next time you're in the elevator, you'll say hello because you sang with them, earlier in the week, or, you drummed together or something like that. So again, our mission, all of our programs are based on connection, creating connection where there may not have been one, or strengthening connections where there may have been. We do some education programs. We have a walk once a year, our fundraiser, a walk to end elder isolation, which anybody can join in. And it's a community event as well as a fundraiser. It's kind of an elderbration. And that is, well, like, I guess in Gloucester, I think maybe I'll stop for a minute just to switch gears, talk about one more thing and then open it up to questions, is that as I said, we were originally funded by, a large foundation. It was a 3-year seed grant. After that, they didn't fund us. They said it's up to the communities if they, will support it. We're planting the seeds and then you're on your own. So many of these programs did survive, and there were some replication projects throughout the country. And I do belong, and some make it, some don't. I am part of a network. I was on a board, like a national board. Now I'm on a different board, just the one board thing that I do, of networks of programs throughout the country who do something similar. Nobody's like Music Friendship Works. We have our own, those 5 programs that we've created to have synergy with one another. The reasons we've selected those programs, the size of our organization, but there are very small programs, there are larger programs in different parts of the country that might only do medical escort, might just do friendly visiting, might do something very different, something in the South. I'm on a board now called Aging Forward, and their whole focus is lifelong learning. And so if you are a lifelong learning, which may be the Council on Aging, you can belong to this, and they have conferences and they have websites and stuff where there's a lot of materials, but many of these programs also might do some friendly visiting or some medical escort, or in some places they do home repair, which we don't do. So depending on what the community needs is how you would build it. And so for Gloucester and for your area, it was like, where are the gaps? What is most needed? What do you think you can actually do, like what can you be successful? Start very small, maybe build out. It could be run even by a volunteer at first in order to be sustainable. I will say that I've seen it run by volunteers and then by paid staff. If it's going to be sustainable, I do think paid staff is the way to go, but it might start out one way and build to the other. It can start with a part-time person and build up depending how, what capacity, whether you're staying in one community or larger. And so I can talk to all of that a little bit more. I will say I did get and I think I mentioned this to Barry, a woman named Julie actually wrote to me the same week that Barry did, ironically, who said that she'd like to start a program like Friendship Works in the Newburyport area. And I know we were up in Hamilton. We helped a program in a church start this many years ago in Hamilton. And they're still going. They still have their friendly visiting program going. And we did some training for them just as a pilot to see what it takes for us to help other programs. And it's quite intense. So we didn't continue that kind of consulting, but with something I'm interested in seeing Friendship Works do at some point, because, we've learned a lot in 40 years, and I want to kind of not have people have to start from scratch with that. But yet I would say that what works about this is that any community can do it. Every community should have something like this. To give dignity to and friendship and a sense of community, and a reason to wake up in the morning for all of us as we're getting older. But what exactly it is, how you shape it, may be very dependent on your resources and what your particular community already has in place and where you think the gaps are. So I'll stop there and I'm happy to take questions. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Amazing. Wow, yeah, thank you. That was incredible. I have some questions. I don't know if the rest of the board. How often are the friendly visits and the friendly visitors, the volunteers? How long of a training do they have to sit through, Janet? There's got to be a training, right?
It's very short. So there are programs I know that have like 2-day, 3-day trainings. We decided a long time ago, people know how to be friends, right? Hopefully, you know, or there's skills to that, but it's really about 3 hours, 2 to 3. Well, first of all, there's a few pieces to it. There is a one-on-one with a staff person. So, you know, first of all, you fill out a form, and in that form, it tells us a little bit about you, like what your interests are, what time of day. So we get some information about the person who's interested in volunteering. We do a query check. You know, you have to by state law, and it's a good idea to do a query check, criminal background check. And then a staff member here, depending on the neighborhood, speaks to the volunteer to find out a little bit more about them, and, you know, who they are and, you know, what their interests might be and things like that. And then there is a training with other people. And we used to do it in person. We now do it on Zoom. I prefer the in-person. And I think in Gloucester, you probably could do it in person because you're a smaller community. And we cover, you know, issues about aging, about what you might see, about reminding people to, we repeat over and over again, please call us if you're not having a good experience. If the person, you know, you might wind up in a situation where you go and the person's not there. If you find somebody on the floor, you know, things like that you might see. What are the natural parts of aging? If you're matched for a long time, what might you see? When might you want to reach out? We talk about listening, you know, what it means to listen, what it means to share. We do want this to be a friendship, not a one-way street, although some places it's more than other. We don't focus on dementia. We are not a dementia-focused program, but if you're doing anything in aging, you have to be aware of that, of some mild memory loss or others, or if you're seeing something happen, what if you see somebody doesn't look? So we cover different aspects of aging and of volunteering and of safety with people and how to access us. So that's what we do in terms of the training. So it's like one evening usually, and people want more, but if somebody's visiting somebody who's blind, we may then give them materials about or spend more one-on-one time. We used to do it as a group, and then we realized everybody's visiting different people, but how to walk with somebody who's blind, like, you know, how to hold somebody's arm, what to ask, you know, what not to assume, or if you're dealing with somebody who has MS or some particular illness, we might do some education around that particular issue of that person that they're visiting with, so that they have, and also the volunteers may have, especially we've had volunteers with compromised health as well. So we'll work with them, you know, around what they can do. And the visits are once a week, and 1 to 2 hours a week is what we ask. There are exceptions, or some people who've preferred every other week. And if that's what's asked for and what's needed, we'll do that. I do think the once a week is wonderful. I mean, I don't know about you, but there aren't too many people I see every week, you know, for lunch. It's hard to find times to get together with friends. So it's a wonderful thing. And it's often the volunteer is the eyes and ears of the community. I will say that case managers in organizations do great jobs and they have a tough job, but I was shocked a number of years ago to find out the case managers see the people that they're responsible for once, maybe twice a year. That's all they have time for. They don't see them. They don't see it, where the volunteer goes in and sees, oh my gosh, last week, you know, everything was fine. This week I come in and the person looks a little disheveled. What's going on? Or there's no food in the refrigerator, or, you know, this person seems very depressed, and nobody else sees that person as often, and they can help to, you know, kind of support somebody before it's too late.
Good.
Right.
Val Gilman, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I would love that. Janet, thank you. This was absolutely up our alleys here. So really appreciate it. And thank you, Barry, for making the connection. I had actually brought this up as a conversation in our meetings. I'm on the city council. I'm an ad hoc member of this great team. And And one of the things that we did during COVID is that we actually, 3 members of the council actually partnered each with 3 or 4 members of our seniors that are in our housing authority buildings.
Yep.
And it was arranged by David Holden, who's the director of the Gloucester Housing Authority. And one of our city councilors was part of the matching too, which was great. And it was super. It was really simple. It was just once a week we'd stop by and check in and talk remotely because we didn't know what was really happening then with COVID, but we'd come to their doors and talk 10 feet apart and then do a call as well. And it was just really a feel good thing. And then when finally they felt that they were doing okay with the isolation, they had found some friends and were starting to walk a little bit, then they kind of just said, well, I think we're ready. I'm okay now. Right. But it was awesome. And so I'm really grateful that you're here. So I have a few questions. Number one, does your organization, Friendship Works, does it provide the 501c3 status to umbrella groups like Gloucester, or are we in a position where we have to kind of start our own 501c3? I mean, have you ever done branches underneath your umbrella?
We have not. So I would like Friendship Works to consider that, just because we've been asked this many times over the years. And so said we did a pilot in Hamilton, and it actually to do the training, to get a group started, it took us, and we have the kind of the basis of something that I think that Friendship Works could create as a training institute or something. It would cost money because it's a lot of staff time. Exactly what and how we would price that out, maybe you could tell me. And I am actually retiring at the end of March, so I'm just going to say that after it's time to pass the baton to somebody else. I have considered, should I go out, and do this, just to help as part of Friendship Works, as an arm of Friendship Works, help other programs get started. Because as director, I haven't had I can get on the Zoom with you now for an hour, but I can't spend 10 hours with you, or 20 hours that it would take to really, kind of walk through to training, check in every now and then, and the follow-up, or have Friendship Works, develop an arm of its work to do that. When we were doing this in Hamilton at the, Christchurch or something,
That's right.
Now, we did a lot of back and forth. We even went up there, and it was a pilot, and it just took us way more time than we could actually really put into doing this as within the constructs of who we are right now. And I know that they said, well, can you franchise, right, what you do? So this is a long answer to your question. The answer is basically right now, we do not. It is something for the board of Friendship Works to consider. And if there was real interest, I would want to bring that to the board and to the new executive director about something to seriously look at as they do their new strategic planning, for the next few years. So I will ask you if this is something that you'd really like, just to jot a note to me that I can pass on. So it's not just my words, but your words that I can share with other people and have them really mull this over. I will say you could, if you're doing this through the Council of Aging, it could be a program of the Council of Aging. So you wouldn't need your own 501c3, and you could figure out how to do this small, a small kind of matching program. And what aspect of this is it just, we have found that friendly visiting is the biggest need. And that is what, I don't want to go on and on, but, we for over 30 years, we served all of Boston. And I say, wherever the mayor's the mayor, every neighborhood of Boston, some better than others, we don't go, and all of Brookline. And then about 10 years ago, the city of Newton asked us to come in to do our friendly visiting program, because the mayor of the city, as well as the Council on Aging, saw a great need for this. And they knew that they at first wanted consulting, and then they said, no, why don't you just come in and do it? It just doesn't make sense for us to do this. So we had a quarter-time person. That was too little. And we now have a half-time person. And the Council on Aging / City of Newton, whatever pays the cost of our half-time person. And then 2 years later, Somerville and Cambridge came and asked us again. And it was mostly the friendly visiting, although now in Newton, we're doing friendly visiting, medical escort, and friendly helping. In Somerville, Cambridge, we are doing friendly visiting, and there's such a need for it and such success also because of that area. And we have a 0.6 person, not enough. We could have 2 full-time people there doing this. But again, it was initially a 2-year grant that we got to do that. And now we're struggling because we don't have the money, and we're only going to be able to continue if we find, because, you know, we're looking for money to cover our staff time in that, you know, vicinity. So there's obviously a need for this. We're getting older. I don't see the need going away. And however, so I could talk to you later, you know, about different ways you could do that internally, or, yeah, I think that's a bigger conversation.
Yeah. It's just fascinating, and it's so important. I mean, in Gloucester, our demographics are really swinging up. I think we're at 48 years old and on an average now, and it just keeps going up. And same with Rockport and Manchester. And, you know, when you mentioned even the high cost of isolation, you know, from a medical standpoint, you know, which is you really don't even want to be thinking about the cost savings. It's
No, you
really
don't.
the socio emotional needs that are just so awesome. So I'm really excited. But let me just, I don't want to hog the floor. So let me just ask you a couple of really quick questions. So what's the process like if a volunteer is just not meeting their obligation? How do you hold them accountable?
So, you know, there's only so much of a stick you have. So sometimes I will say we find out that a match ended and they didn't tell us, and we find out we do a check-in. So we have built in, you know, like right after the first match, then 3 months, then 6 months, then a year. And then after something, some of our matches, you know, only last a year or whatever, average is about 2 years, but we have matches. We have a match now that's 25 years. We have some that are 18 years.
Wow.
We've had a number of those. We have people who have been the only person who's been there and actually arranged for the funeral of somebody. There's some very, very moving stories, and, you know, the person who knows or has helped somebody move from their home to an assisted living to a nursing, because you become, after a while, they become friends and family with one another if you do it for so long. And the reason matches end is sometimes the older adult moves or their situation changes dramatically. Sometimes the volunteer moves, their situation changes dramatically. We will try and rematch. If we have ended matches, not very often, but we've decided if there was any like some red flags, we hope we catch them beforehand, but there've been a few over the years, very few, where we have said to the volunteer, we had one situation that I remember, again, this is out of 40 years. I can tell you maybe a handful of times there are things where either like somebody who is driving, you feel like they're not safe driving anymore. They're now, you know, 90 themselves. We're in a few little, not that 90-year-olds necessarily are worse drivers, you know, but we felt that there were a few fender benders and we didn't want to take the chance. And that's been very hard to ask somebody to stop volunteering when they love doing it. We have had a volunteer where the person they were visiting, again, the volunteer can be older than the person they're visiting. There are some 80-year-olds that are healthier than many 60-year-olds, right? So like it doesn't necessarily, who are more vital, but where the person who was being visited started calling us and saying that she thought that the volunteer was stealing from her. And they had been matched for many years. And you know what? We didn't know what the situation was, but we weren't going to get into it. And we just said, we don't know if it's true. We don't know if it's some kind of confusion. We don't know if it's paranoia. We don't know, but you need to stop visiting. We can't have you visiting on our clock anymore. We're not that kind of a program. You need to stop. It's painful for the volunteer if they were innocent, but we just had to stop that. Or if somebody says they're out of town too often and, you know, haven't visited for 2 months, we might need to rematch them or get another match so that, yeah, they can come every now and then, but they're not keeping up their obligation. So you could have 2 volunteers for that person if you needed to.
Great. So there's some checks and balances. Like I was thinking, you know, you wouldn't want a person to be a volunteer that has an ulterior motive of trying to sell life insurance or something like that, right? I mean, that would not be a good thing, because that would be a conflict of interest. So I'm sure that there are checks and balances with with that type of relationship.
Yep, and you can create as many checks and balances as you want to a certain degree. You also want it to be a friendship. I will say that one of the things that's unique about the kind of program we are and I have a social work community organizing background from way
Yeah.
back, but I will say, having said that, I don't think of us as a social work program or a social service in that way. I think of us as a neighbor to neighbor. And we don't ask questions that are not helpful to us in making a match. So we don't ask people's social security number, which government program. We don't ask people's income. Our focus is on low and moderate income persons, but there are people who are wealthy, who are very lonely. Their family thinks they're all taken care of because,
Yeah.
they've got money and they have nobody who visits with them. So again, our focus is low and moderate, but we do not ask, and the vast majority we serve, probably 75% are low and moderate income, but there
Yeah.
are people with means who we visit because
Yeah.
and we serve people 60 and older, 55 and older if they have vision or hearing impairment. For us, that's our standards.
Okay, that's great. Anyway, those are my basic questions. I'm just totally floored. I feel so excited because this process is exactly what I think a lot of us have been thinking would really help. And isolation is just terrible, and became even worse during COVID. I love your 5 areas. That each has a buzz for me, and geez, I wish I had more time because I would love to be attending your meetings and helping in any way. So I hog the floor, but thank you, Janet, and thank you, Barry, for making this connection. And I'll get on your website and learn more. And I'm highly excited about this. So thank you.
Elise?
Just so excited. I think my main question, Janet, is might you entertain taking a phone call from me? Because I don't know if I, you know what I mean, if I want to get into the weeds to that degree, but I have questions about things like if people see things, if there's a matchup, at what point is somebody a mandated reporter? You know what I mean? Because I imagine you got to play that very carefully because you don't want there's just so much to kind of navigate there. So maybe if we could have a side conversation by phone about how that is handled, if there's ever a need for reporting, and just what your experience has been in that area. And then,
Can you tell me your name? Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm Elise Sinagra, and I'm the director here of the Council on Aging. I'm the director of the Senior Center, and Gloucester's Director of Elder Services is my title. And I've had the experience of launching a nonprofit before. That was an affiliate structure. It was a national nonprofit and worked with a very good volunteer board, a lot of them out of Hamilton and Wenham, to launch a family homeless shelter program. So if Friendship Works wants to pick my brain about anything to do with what it means to be a charity that has an affiliate structure, I do have a little bit of experience in that. And I guess just, I think I need to pick over the website, see more about what you do about outreach, because I know so often folks, even though they're very socially isolated and they might feel really lonely, it's hard for human beings to say that, to say I'm lonely. I just want someone to come visit me. Not for everybody. Some folks, they say it very readily, but for some folks, I remember my mom in particular, she didn't want anyone coming to her house. She, in her mind, she was perfectly happy being lonely, but the things that I saw, she wasn't. Now, I understand too, the right to everybody's self-determination and I respect all of that. So I respect the fact that you only do this for folks who ask, but I can't wait to pour over your communications a little bit more and see how you communicate in such a way as to really try to encourage people to ask, reach out. This is what this friendship can do for you. So I'll look at all of that stuff. If I don't see the types of communications I'm looking for, I might want to ask you about that in a phone call as well, if that's okay.
And I will say, just to make sure you clarify that, thank you. And everything you said, I resonate with. So thanks. But people don't generally ask, people don't generally self-refer, though we will take that, but might be somebody else. A doctor might say that they know somebody's spouse died, or they notice that, do you have anybody use and might refer, or a social worker might, but they will have to ask them. We won't do a cold call. So for instance, if you had somebody at the senior center, you would want to tell them about Friendship Works. We know about this program, they're really great. This is what they do. Would you like, would you be open to a call? Would you like to consider having a friendly visitor? They have to say yes, because it's just not fair to our, it's not fair to that person or to us to do that. So they may not come up with idea themselves, but somebody else does. And I will say the one, the silver lining of COVID is that it made, I think it took, not completely, but a little bit of the stigma out of being lonely and socially isolated. So that was the which is, as you said, so hard to say. One of our board members is, he's actually doing a program for us tomorrow, but he's a psychiatrist, and he said he realized that people who come in and they say they're depressed, really what they are, they're lonely. So and a program like ours, they don't really need to go to him. They really need a friend. And we have seen that with people who have been in the whatever, that we just all need a friend. And there are group people, and then there are people who never were group people their whole life. So they say, oh, well, you should go to counseling. You should do this group. You should belong to that. But they didn't like it. I have a family member who said, I'd rather go to the dentist with my tooth pulled than go to a group gathering. That's just who they are, right? So, but he needs a friend. Right? He needs someone to talk to. So not everybody, groups are fabulous, very important for many of us. But you can also have both, or you could have one or the other. But there are people I know, I have never met anyone who does not need a friend in the world. So that is part of it. And yes. So anyway, yes, and the whole thing about mandated reporting is interested. So yes, I can talk to you some other time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Janet, this is Michelle. I have a question. You mentioned liability, and you said you would touch on that. So could you just?
Sure. Yeah, we're insured up to the kazoo, but I will say in 41 years, we have never had a lawsuit, thank goodness, for that. We have, as I said, we had one or two fender benders, nothing major, and that was dealt with immediately. We had, that situation that could have, we caught it. Also, at least in the literature, I haven't read it in the last few years, I will say, so it may have changed. It is rare that it is infrequent that people will sue a volunteer. So if you fell and a volunteer was there, it's just like if a neighbor came over to help you, you fell, you knew they did it out of the goodness of their heart, and you fell. If that person was paid, you'd be much more likely to sue them, right? Just that's the way the United States is. That's the way people are. A friend comes over and helps you, something happens, not to their fault. We've never had anything that I know of that it was the volunteer's fault, but things happen, when you're together. But it's very infrequent that volunteer, and that's why volunteer insurance is very inexpensive, and you do want it. We do have something called non-owned hired automobile insurance. So even if you don't do medical escort, but if you allow volunteers to go shopping with the older adult that they, and they get in a car, you're going to want to make sure that you're covered. There's something called non-owned hired automobile insurance. It's always something, it's the secondary. You can never be the primary insurance in a nonprofit. So you want to make sure that whoever's driving has car insurance if they're going to use their car. So that might be on your form. Do you have a car? Do you have car insurance? What's your liability? You could do that. And then because we're an organization, we have, general liability and an umbrella policy, which the COA has, I'm sure, has. So a lot of the things that you would do if this came under the 501c3 of or whatever status a COA has, because I know you're a state program, a lot of this would be under you'd talk to your, legal team or whatever, and a lot of this program would come under that, and you might need a little bit extra, but it's not. So yes, it is an expense. I don't know what extra expense it would be for a COA compared to what you already have, but something worth looking into. But again, there are these volunteer insurance. We get our volunteer insurance through our general liability, but I know there are other programs that there's something called SEMA, and they just do volunteer insurance. And again, it's not very expensive.
Nice.
Any other questions for her before we move on? You've been fabulous.
I am so excited about this.
No.
Yes, okay, thank you so much, Janet, wow. Yes,
Janet,
God
thank you.
bless too, for everything you've done, everything you do. Hey.
Yeah.
And good luck with your retirement.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Before
Hope to talk to you
you head.
before then. I'm happy to talk to you before that or to be in touch with you afterwards, depending where I am. I don't know what I'm doing yet. So,
Excellent.
but I'm staying involved
Go
with
ahead.
this other board, the Aging Forward. They used to be called Shepherd Center, so I am staying on their national board. So there may be ways that I could be in touch with you, you know, that could be a volunteer thing, but that I can be in touch with you afterwards. So Barry, you actually have my cell phone number, which might be a dangerous thing, but anyway, take care. Very nice to meet you. Delighted.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Have a great day.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Felicia, Cape Ann Transportation Authority.
I have no updates, but
But.
I know. I was just thinking about it because we have the assessor's office here. Is there a way that I could advertise either one, their visit, or two, just more generally that these programs are available? Contact your assessor's office because we have the dial-a-ride vans.
Right.
I mean, they go Gloucester, Rockport, you know, and our other communities. Are these programs available in every community? Like, they're different a little bit, but like town of Essex, let's say, would they have a senior offset type thing?
I don't know, because what I heard Nancy say is the state gives municipalities the permission to pick from this buffet.
Right.
Take none of this buffet, you know what I mean? So I would imagine that the different communities probably do their own thing, and maybe in big ways, maybe in smaller ways. But still, maybe if there could be a way that
It's like
we could
really,
just get
like-
some signage, call your assessor's office, here's the number for Gloucester here, and
Right.
just to say, did you know that if you have a disability, and we know in
You have
Gloucester, we could,
options or-
right, we could do
just-
some messaging. That might be a great idea, I think, Felicia. What does the board think? I think that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
We can figure out who's gonna pay for it. It's always, who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
Who's gonna?
Well, I mean, the only cost that we would actually have would be production
Yeah,
because,
just, yeah,
yeah,
because I could get the information and I can write it. I can write things.
yeah, if you want to do that,
Wow, yeah.
okay.
Yay.
Because we can probably, Kato can probably pick up the cost of the production. If he just
Yeah.
puts something together. And I can put on the
Elise?
van.
This is Val. So, to answer Felicia's question or to kind of elaborate a little bit on it, on our community development website, there's a 3 or 4 page document that has all the programs offered to seniors. And it even had the Shine meetings and the assistance that is given at the senior center, and it's kind of a masterful document. And it just expired 2 months ago, and I mentioned to Greg Catamatore that we really needed to continue it. So if I can try to find that document, but that document is one of those. You know how sometimes we take our grants and they sit up on the, like a survey and it sits on the shelves, and this document is such a helpful tool. So that might be a perfect place that you could begin to include some of the information that you want, because it's a real good feel-good document, and that should be something that we should be able to make copies of and have it available for those without computers. But let me find that document and I'll send it to Elise and Fred so they can share it with all of you. But we can do a better job with so many things that we communicate, because we do so much and we just don't tell people what it is we do, right? And anyway, we can do better with communicating that type of information.
Yeah, I mean, if that document, if Greg just doesn't have the room on his plate to get to updating it so that it won't be expired anymore, then we can certainly help with that, Val. So yeah, if you could scare me up that document, that'd be great.
Good. I'll give it
We'll
to
do
you. Any questions for Felicia? Anything further from Felicia?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Yep. Pleasure. Value statement, we'll probably move over that. Susan, what do you do with internet?
I don't have anything new. Barry, do you have anything?
We need our next meeting.
Thanks, but not on that issue.
All right, let's see, where are we? Program developments.
Good.
Roll
Fred,
programming?
I'm sorry.
Good.
Could you just drop me an email, Susan, with some of your availability, and then I can get back to you with mine, and we can do our next sit down to do our next chunk of the website, because that's been productive.
The outreach stuff needs to go up.
Okay, so let's meet and talk about that. Let's,
Okay,
okay,
I'll do
okay.
that.
Perfect, thanks.
Cool. Remote programming, anything on that?
Nothing right now, except maybe the dip of a toe into something that might turn into something. It's not the remote program that we had been talking about, like in Magnolia and
I
Lanesville.
don't think that won't make the minutes.
But I have been in touch with a program, an AARP program.
Yeah.
The like OATS, Older Adult Technology Program, Technology Services. They have this program under the OATS umbrella. There's another program called, I can't remember, but there's a program that offers educational presentations. And there's, I think, some ability for it to be interactive, and it's intended for people to be able to just click on that thing that they want to participate in. And it's not pre-recorded, it's a live thing where it's interactive. And I wrote to them and I said, hey, we've got this great technology, Zoom room technology in several of our areas of our building. Might we get lots of people in a room participating with this thing, along with other people who are participating as individuals on Zoom? And they wrote back and said, sounds like a perfect fit for our affiliate, our licensing program. So there is something there. We might have to get some kind of license, there might be money, but the type of things they offer were really exciting. And if, I just think that could be a cool thing. So I'll tell the board more about that next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
Anything 1623 Studios.
Not virtual senior center so much, but I do have a meeting tomorrow with Eric Archer to talk about a new podcast that 1623 wants to launch. That will be focused on seniors. That will be the voice of seniors telling their stories. So Eric and I are going to talk about that tomorrow.
Any questions on that before I move on? Congregate meals program?
Congregate meals program is Monday. The work is starting on the exhaust for the convection ovens in the kitchen that I think JD expects to take about 3 days. And once that's done, I'm talking to Dan Trimble over at the Open Door about maybe a mid-January for flipping the switch to Open Door 5 days a week.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yay.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Seniors on the Go bus.
So, the new newsletter is out, the December newsletter is out. I have a couple of them here if anybody needs one. But, December is a real busy month at the senior center. The first 3 are seniors on the go. December 9th, we're going to Route 1 Dollar Store. It's a big store. And then we're going to Sylvan Street Grill for lunch. On the 12th, we're going to see the Christmas lights. And my generous friend Felicia is providing us the great big bus that looks like a trolley. And
cool.
So
Elise-
festive.
Elise had the idea of having a Yankee swap. So we're doing a Yankee swap
I
from
thought that was your idea, Rosie. Go on, take credit.
3:30 to 4:30, we're doing a Yankee swap with some like hot chocolate and cookies. I'm gonna call the Open Door.
Yep.
Help. And then 4:30, 5:30, we're going in the trolley and we're gonna go around to see Christmas lights.
Because all windows on the trolley.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
And they're excited. The seniors are excited about it.
So they can see.
And people advertise their houses on Facebook. So I asked someone, where's your house? So I'm gonna put it out on Facebook if anyone has any suggestions.
Yes.
There was a list last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lady that's on Raynard Street and
Oh,
one of my seniors yesterday said she's good friends with her. And they usually come out later in the day, in the night. So I'm gonna see if they'll come out earlier, just to say hello to us. They don't have to have hot chocolate and stuff, but just to say hello to our seniors.
Nice.
And then on the 16th, we'll go into the Rockport Cape Ann Community, Cape Ann Community Theater to see a movie and have lunch. And then on the 18th, Americold is having a breakfast here for all the seniors, and that's at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then on the 19th, we're having our fabulous Christmas party, which will be so much fun. Then on the 20th, we have the Mobile Mart, which the Open Door comes and gives free food. And then on the 23rd, we're having a goodbye party to Julie. So we have a busy month.
We do. You.
It's gonna be a blast.
Please, if anyone can come at 12:30 on the 23rd to say goodbye to Julia. To say goodbye to Julie. I'll be
Oh.
sobbing in the corner. I'll be
Yeah, that's
sobbing in the corner.
We have to have a meeting about the Christmas party and Julie's party, see what we
Yes,
can do.
yes.
Val, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to add to Rosalie's comment about the family on Reynard Street, it's, Julie and Bill Kesterson.
Oh,
Yes,
that's who it
yes,
is? Oh,
yes.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's their house. It is fabulous, and they dress up as Santa Claus, and Mrs. Santa, and it's just, their house is just
It's amazing.
They're
just
actually the ones,
amazing.
they're
So,
actually the ones that got the rest of the big Reynard Street to decorate their
Decorate,
houses.
yeah.
Yeah.
The whole
Reynard
street
Street
is
is where it's at.
fantastic.
I know.
Julie
Yeah.
used to run the kitchen at the church that she belonged to, so I know her through doing inspections. So I'm
yes.
on her Facebook
Yeah.
them.
Just now that you know who they are, I have their contact if you need to reach them.
Oh, great.
But, they're just awesome, and it's
Yeah.
magical. Yeah.
Good hearts. Thank you.
Oh, you do good work.
It's so fun.
But yeah, but else, yeah.
It's so fun.
That's the best. Co-op information request survey. We talked that around. I think you had the brightest idea of it being probably in a school, being the most logical place. If the senior center were
Disaster recovery.
disaster recovery,
Right.
exactly.
Continuing-
If we were to
continuing
continue the services on a limited basis, opportunity basis to school. I was wondering if we also might add to that, presumably that the library will be out of its space at 21 Main. Keep an eye on that as being adequate space for senior center being run on a limited basis, just as the library is doing that on a limited basis. I couldn't think of any other place in the city that might be vacant. But that seems to be a space that is rentable, and would, might be an option, might be available this all.
Usually you have to check with the owner.
But it is kind of as a plan B.
It's a plan, it'll be a plan B to the schools. Schools, you have to talk to the school department.
Yeah.
But I can't see them not being able to find a space within the school to accommodate, especially seniors coming in for a period of time until the building's back up and running.
I imagine it would be a flood.
You never, you just let the sprinklers, the cold get to the sprinkler system and you come in one day and everything's mush.
Yes.
And okay, you're off
Yeah.
to the races. And that's what Bob's working on. I missed it when you handed it out the last time. That's Bob Rivas, who is the EMD coordinator for the city.
Mhm.
And what they're doing is they're encouraging people to do the emergency planning
Right.
so that it's not, now what do we do at the moment?
And administratively, we could just continue to meet all via Zoom if need be. We'd go back to the COVID model.
We can do Zoom.
Right, so yeah, even the staff could just work remotely as long as IT could, if our machines were become inoperable, we would just need new machines in a hurry.
Go ahead, please.
Disaster recovery has never been intended to be able to do everything
Right.
somewhere else.
Yep.
You need to decide what it is that's important for you to continue your operation. Now, part of that may not be a facility to accommodate all your seniors,
Right.
And the other thing is you want to make sure that whatever you do today, you can do someplace else. Whatever you do on your computers, everything should be backed up. I don't know what your system, where right now, where do you back up to? Is there a
Wherever
service
I
in
can
place?
make
You to sort of
IT does that.
lead on this.
Okay. You have a server. Everything goes into that server.
We don't have a server here. IT
So
takes care
it's
of
all
all
like
that.
the Cato
Yeah.
office upstairs. That's where our
Okay,
IT office.
all right, so-
Everything's over there.
I would imagine that every night, whatever you do during the day is backed up. I'm imagining that's how it works. Okay, so if for some reason this place was inoperable and you couldn't get on your computers or whatever, then you know that the site at Pond Road
Mhm.
has the information that you would need to be able to continue your business, whatever it may be. Or what else do you need? It doesn't necessarily mean it's all computerized.
I mean, are they you guys do a lot of things on paper. When people are signing up for different things, that's on paper, that's not on the system. Would you be able to make a list of things in order for us to move forward in the event that our building is not operable? What do I need to take and put someplace else? We, in the business that I was in, every department was responsible for taking a to-go box, I'll call it. Whatever's in that box, you can go anywhere and operate. But it's not always 100%. You couldn't possibly do 100%.
You couldn't spend enough
No.
hours in a day.
Yeah, right. I mean,
But-
it would be impossible. That you absolutely have to have. That's right. Yes, and that's what disaster recovery is.
Yeah.
It's not to make sure that you can go from A to B and start up. No. It's what do you need to continue your operation at a minimal, obviously. We couldn't take 150 people and put them in a building. You know, we might have taken 5 from each department and put them in a building. But the most important thing is your backup. What do you have that's secure, done nightly? We used to have a place, we were in, where was I? We were in New Jersey, but our backup place was in Pennsylvania. So we knew that if something happened to our building, we'd have to go to Pennsylvania.
That's not
Whoever
the
the five
scope of what we need for this document, though. IT
Right.
does all that.
Yeah.
IT,
But you gotta
They
make
back
sure,
up.
yeah, but you have to make sure that it's backed up not you, but IT needs to make sure that whatever you do today, you can see tomorrow, no matter where you are.
but this is what, I don't think it's what Bob's asking for us to do now, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's, Bob's probably asking IT to do that as
Yeah,
well. How
yeah.
would you continue to
But
make sure
you-
everything's backed up? But
How would you, if you had to go to another building, how would you operate?
I could do anything I need to do from my laptop,
Okay,
from anywhere. I need to just sign into my city account.
Mhm.
And I need to be able to sign into my senior center. So both of those things I would sign into are remote from this building. So if this building went down, I would,
That's-
as long as I had a laptop, even if my laptop went down in a kind of sprinkler scenario or something.
yeah,
IT gets me a new laptop. I'm
exactly-
up in business trying to get this building up and running again from anywhere that I can sign.
and that's
in. So,
exactly what
So
disaster
do you need
recovery
any
is.
help from
Yeah.
us on this subject?
I need to, I think, revisit the document and just see if I could use any help in documenting it and because this is all great stuff to think about and I love that you have expertise in this area, Michelle. It's really handy. But just to look at it and get them what it is that they want.
Right.
So I think I'd need to, do you have the document that I gave you, Fred? 'Cause I am just
How many
wondering if
staff-
someone can help, if the board could kind of give a crack at words, writing it.
How many staff members do you have?
We have, 4, wait a minute, I just count every single time. We have 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 full-time. And then we have 2 part-time that are council on aging staff. And then I also, when I do the count in my head, I think of Rosalie as part-time too, because we're blessed to be able to have.
Okay,
her
so
most of the
those-
time.
Those half a
For the health
dozen or
department.
dozen people.
Yeah.
They need to be able to go with you wherever you go, or from home or whatever.
Yeah.
To continue their job.
Not necessarily. They can sign into their accounts too and be able to continue.
Well, that's
their
what I
job.
mean. They can
Yeah.
do that.
Oh, right.
We all have laptops.
We all have laptops,
If we
right?
take them
And-
Yeah.
And your laptop, you would be able to communicate with the IT people on Pond Road,
Absolutely.
everybody, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And
Put
that's
in a
the
ticket,
important
yeah.
thing, because if you can't get to that, you can't do your job.
Right. There are, yes, exactly. And if we're going to write this into a document, what will we do? And,
In the event of,
yeah, actually, I think just from this discussion, I could probably bang this out pretty quickly myself.
so it just,
But there would be a tremendous benefit to having a space for Julie to meet with people, because the stuff that Julie meets with
That's what I
people
was just
about, you
gonna
want to be
take that,
sitting with
yeah.
somebody face to face
Yeah.
on. So I think
Okay,
my
City
go-to
Hall.
would be asking City Hall to have a
Yeah.
space, or asking for a space over at the annex.
Yeah.
Or even temporarily, we could do a space at something like the library, just any kind of private space where a door could be closed for people to discuss
that
private
was
things.
my next
Yeah.
point. My next point is,
Yeah,
you're not gonna find, or you're not gonna try to accommodate a place that you're gonna take 150 people to,
No.
you know? I mean,
No, we
depending,
can't. The,
right.
the continuation operations plan to me would be where could the staff, how would the
Yes.
staff work to get
Yes.
this building back online?
That's exactly what it's all about. It's not about trying to get everybody from point A to point B.
Right, but if something happened that required the building, that rendered the building offline for a very
Yes,
long time,
that's my
then we
next
would
thing,
want,
yes.
we would want a space where we could still hold
Yes.
occasional senior
And that's-
programs just to keep the community together
yes.
and continue to serve people.
And that's
So
where maybe the
that would
school
be the
would come
school
into place.
maybe, or, right.
The
yeah,
schools
or
have
the library.
cafeterias, they'd have a place for you to
For the grab and go.
serve.
lunch.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, those are the things that
Right.
look beyond what you have here, and where else could I do that?
Yeah,
And then
If
if you
this
need
building went-
transportation, we have CADA.
if this building went down, Meals on Wheels so that's probably something I should do too, is just reach out to them and say, because that's not really our job. That's their job to figure out how they would
Right.
continue operations
Right.
without the senior center.
Yeah.
But it might be a good idea for me to just kind of put a bug in their ear and say, hey, we're doing this. You guys should probably do this because something could happen. So, yeah.
And her program also has a list, as everyone knows, of every member. So she could do a blast email saying the
Oh, yeah.
senior center's closed, don't
Oh, yeah.
come down.
Yeah,
We can
that's what-
still, we
those
can
are the
communicate
things-
with each other and through my senior center, we can communicate with our constituents, with the
That's why they
population
call
we
it
serve.
recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want to recover from the disaster, whatever it may be. And you want to be able to reach out to all those people. How do you do that?
Computers.
You know a lot about it, Michelle. Good
They
job.
are to an
Yeah,
extent,
yeah.
but
Many years
The
of being
one-
in the
Yeah.
corporate world, that's what we do.
And Barry?
The one that always catches my eye is order of succession. More times, we would be standing in front of a very large building, and we'd say, who's in charge of the building? Oh, well, that person's off in Hawaii on vacation.
Yeah.
Who's second?
Right,
Who is the second person?
okay.
And then that person has to be told that they're the second, because more than once, we've had people come and say, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want
Keys
me
are
to
in
make the
Hawaii.
decision? Yeah.
Contingency plan. You have to have a
It's-
contingency
it's
plan.
contingent.
These are the people.
It's an exercise that's put to paper. God, you hope you never have to use it.
No.
Yes.
But the day you have to use it.
Yeah.
What the city is asking to have, and I'm sure this is going to the city's emergency management plan. The city wants to know who is gonna do what where, and that you've talked to the other people. That's all.
An example would be a quick example. The earthquake of 94, California. My office was in Simi Valley. We had 2 floors. The brand new building fell apart. They put us all in vans and told us that we had to go to downtown Los Angeles to be in a 9-story building. Now, this is, all these people that just went through an earthquake and they're putting us on the 9th floor. But everybody in everybody's department had to start from a box, basically. It's a contingency, okay? We can't be here, we gotta go here. We had leaders, we had people that volunteered to drive vans. If it was more than 35 miles from your original place of business, you could take a layoff. You could collect unemployment. There was so many things, but we always had to meet like once a month because you never knew when a catastrophe was gonna happen. Yeah, I mean, and we're on the 9th floor, and the first day they take us there's another earthquake. The building's moving, and I'm going, is this job really worth it?
Okay,
But I mean, you gotta be able to start from scratch.
moving on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My thanks to the board for giving me, for this conversation, which I think will enable me to fill this out.
Great. Anything further on the initiative to minimize stray shopping carts? Is Val still with us?
No, I think Val's gone,
Yeah, well,
unless, I don't know,
No,
no,
no.
Val's still there, yeah, Val's still there.
I was just flying back.
It's hard
I've
to
got
see
a-
on the screen because it's so far away. Val.
Sinus headache. This is the worst COVID I've had.
Oh, no.
And I had my shot 5 weeks ago, my new
Oh.
strain shot.
Oh.
But, so I honestly haven't done anything since the last
Okay.
time. So I just needed to confess, and, I'll go to confession.
You get a pass on that. There was a holiday and you don't feel good, yes.
Okay, and then So we, skip over the next item, which is friendship works, because we've just done that. This Beacon Village Network, I last have done some of my homework. Had a really, very pleasant, line of communication with the executive director, by email. No one had ever expressed an interest in their video library before. She's delighted with the idea. She's gonna take it to her board. The more she thought about it, issues of copyright or privacy or whatnot emerged. And so she said, well, would you review what we have for a video library and let us know what it is that you would consider that you'd like to borrow or to use it for rebroadcasting? And I replied saying, I understand your concern, but really it would be probably easier if you were to review and tell us what would not be available. Because programmatically, your program is growing all the time. And as things are added to the library, if you think it's inappropriate for them to be rebroadcast, you can just hold them back from them. Yeah, and so I think that's where we are. Now, I began by, first of all, giving a really good paragraph describing the senior center and that we are a serious organization. And she got that message. I offered to purchase a private membership fee. And then therefore I would be the person who would be coming to acquire the videos for rebroadcasting. After talking with her staff, they thought that probably they should develop a different kind of membership specifically for that service, because the idea of if it just being us, we will probably be the first of many who may wish to come and use their library, or this may become a more common occurrence with organizations similar to theirs of sharing information. So this is going to be a board decision on her part to pull together a response to my rather general proposal. My question is from all of you, is this something that still continues to interest everybody, in which case I would continue to pursue this? Because Elise and I should sit down and go through the inventory, see if this is in fact as good an idea as I think it is. Do we put more time into this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
But they were thrilled. No one's ever asked them before, which is just wonderful. It's great.
Cool. We started a new thing, Frank.
Yes. Barry.
One of the things that caught my eye with Janet is a volunteer, not a volunteer, excuse me. She consults to the Beacon Hill Village on their transportation, senior initiatives, reaching out, and all of these things. What became really obvious to me about all of this stuff, somewhere in my pile here, when you start to list out the potential partners we have here in the city, between the faith-based communities, action, the senior care, Gloucester Housing Authority, public safety, cater, we've already have with us. Open Door, Beauport Ambulance Service, the Addison Gilbert Hospital.
Why?
I think, as Janet said, the ability to reduce the number of people coming to that emergency room or being patients in their bed simply by a program, they may want to be partners with us to make a program work.
Yeah,
so when you start to think about this stuff and you see the interrelationships, go for it, Fred.
Right. Yeah, the intimacy of the video is what it's face on. This is like the two of us. Honestly, it's that intimate. And the tone, it's very relaxed environment with some really quite heavy information. Very appealing. Like, again, reversing loneliness. There's somebody really in your living room for an hour or so.
And
No ads, no interruptions, whatnot. But anyway, cool. I will follow through. I'm sorry it took me so long to delve in here. The director's report.
So I think a lot of the director's report stuff, we've already talked about. But I do want to let the board know that, I'm going to stay and, Felicia and I are going to stay and have a little chat. I didn't see Betty's response about staying after the meeting today. So we're done interviewing potential outreach coordinators. It's a problem. Those are big shoes to fill. But I also feel that we only got 7 resumes. 2 of those were completely non-viable. We chose 5. We chose 5, the rest of the 5 viable. One of them dropped out of contention. Money continues to be an issue. We're not offering what people are currently making in other roles. And that's, that's a real issue. But I also think that at the time frame that posting took place, I don't know, like, I just wonder, did
it reach out to enough people?
I know, to only get 7, we got way more to choose from when I ended up, a bigger pool. So anyway, long and short of it is that we met with 4 candidates. The hiring committee, only wanted to bring 1 back for a second interview, but we saw on her application that what the amount that she had asked, said she desired salary, was not in line with what we were able to offer. So personnel took a fairly unprecedented action, not completely, but they said, hey, this is the absolute top we can go. Do you still want to come in for a second interview? And unfortunately, she said no, that she absolutely couldn't, her bills could not afford it. So then it's like, okay, do we want to, I was left then with the decision, do I want to reconsider one of the other candidates? Because one of them was, either of them could do it. I could bring them along, but I don't know. I think reposting is the way to go. And then that brings up the issue. One of the candidates that we saw that quite frankly had just a ton of experience working with seniors and already knows Shine and stuff, didn't have one of the educational requirements. So personnel had told me that to hire that person, I would need to repost to make that desired instead of required. And I don't think I'm inclined to do that. As much as her experience is there with seniors and she knows Shine, even in the course of the interview, I could just, there are just ways in which that education matters. I think, and people just being able to present a certain way, and our population always feeling like they're getting served by people at a certain level.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to take away that requirement that you have at least a bachelor's degree. I think just repost it and try to push really hard to get the word out to more places and try to see if we can get somebody like Julie, who just really has a passion for this population and for whom maybe the salary isn't such a big deal. The candidate that we wanted to see for the second interview, I happen to know kind of enough about her personally to know that, yeah, she probably couldn't take that pay cut, but but maybe other people have
How
different
far and wide
circumstances.
does this posting go?
I'll talk to personnel, but that was basically, maybe you don't need to stay after all, Felicia, unless you want to discuss it because you disagree.
No,
But
I agree with
I'm
you.
leaning towards reposting. So I
Does
think
this-
we're gonna.
Does this go up at Simmons? Do they know this?
It will now.
Yeah.
I think that's what I need to do is repost and just really
Yeah.
dig, get it everywhere,
Yeah.
So help I'll help the personnel department to get that distributed more far and wide.
Also a bad time of year to be doing this.
Right now is, I know, right now is, but when we posted it, the initial posting was back in October.
Yeah.
Back in October.
That should have been good.
I'm
One would
surprised that we
think.
only got 7. I'm really surprised.
I think,
Where was
I
it
think we
posted?
just needed to get it out there more far and wide.
Where was it posted?
Personnel would know that. I don't know.
Oh.
I know that in addition to wherever personnel posts it, we do some, word of mouth. Julie interacts with so many social workers that she
Yeah.
lets her networks know. I let my personal networks know. But there's got to be other places because clearly maybe it was timing. Who knows what it was? But I think the role is too important to pick from the 4 people that we saw, one of whom we liked the best that already is a no-go. I need better. I need better than that. And it'll take a little longer,
Go for it.
but
I know Indeed is very popular.
So yeah, I'll talk to personnel so that I can just see, but Indeed costs money.
Or does it?
I don't know if personnel posts on Idealist. Idealist is all nonprofit jobs
The health department post on Indeed.
on Indeed, right? But I don't know, like I said, Idealist might be good, reaching out to the colleges.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to personnel some more about what their standard operating procedure for posting is and determine what I need to do to augment that.
Yeah, and this is a job where turnover, the only turnover you have is retirement. Pretty much, it seems, so that
Well, if you
investing
Find out you don't like the
for
job.
personnel to invest on getting really a fine person
Yes,
who then stays.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Does the Massachusetts COA Association, I don't know their
We
acronym.
posted on MCOA. Yeah, yeah, I did that. I reached out to them as soon as personnel posted it and asked them MCOA, because that is a good one. That's a great thought, Felicia, because that's where a lot of council on aging people go to see what else is out there. So, so yes, it was posted on that, but you know, maybe a longer timeline of having it, I don't know, but
I help. I don't know about Mass Municipal MMA. That cost a lot of money because they posted, that's where my administrator job was on there.
oh,
That's expensive
to
though.
post there.
Mhm.
Well, I'll ask personnel. Wait a minute, let me,
Although Kate is not a member of MMA, so maybe it's cheaper if you are, and Gloucester is.
right. If posted. to MMA. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so that's where that is going. The first half of our form, the other person, you know, that we lost our medical rights coordinator,
Yeah.
part-time position that was subsidized. I had spoken to the mayor's office to get them to just realize the need, realize what a critical loss that was and how much we need that person. I presented to them a chart that showed that communities that serve a senior population of more than 10,000 people have an average of 12 full-time staff members.
Wow.
So it's justified. It's the mayor's office directed me to the auditor and to the treasurer to say, yes, Lisa has the money for this. Because the grant
Yeah.
increased again, the formula grant increased again. But they just needed me to get something in writing saying this is your formula grant amount. So we got the first half of it in. I didn't run it by this. It wasn't accepted yet by the city council. It will be. But they have their thing in writing now that says this is the amount, and it's the amount I thought it was gonna be, which means, yes, it's paid for with this grant. I'll pay for this thing. So, I need to know whether or not that's gonna come to fruition, whether or not the grant really will fund that before I can get it accepted by the city council, because I say in a memo what the money is gonna be used for and then they accept it, you know what I mean? So that's where I am with that, and that's taking up time, is sometime. So, and
You
meanwhile,
got half the amount of money that's coming. Does that cover 6 months worth of an employee that you're talking about?
no, half the formula grant, covers half of a bunch of salaries. The
Okay.
formula grant, enters into, a bunch of people's salaries.
Okay.
Some are fully paid for by that grant, some partially.
Okay.
So yeah. And the other half will come right along, like in a couple months. So speaking of the medical rides program, Natalia and I, Michael, mostly Natalia, the lion's share, God bless her, have been keeping up with the medical rights program. We've been noticing that program, because it's always lacked documentation, it's lacked anything to say what it is and what it isn't. It doesn't have policies, it doesn't have guidelines. I started to try to address that in the welcome booklet where I said, here are the rules. We need this much time, advance notice. We need this, we need that. We're noticing that it badly needs more, because I think that non-emergency medical rights program is really experiencing kind of what I would call maybe a mission creep. It started out back in the day, and you might remember this, Rosalie, because I wasn't here when it operated the old way, when the Friends paid the volunteer drivers a stipend. I'm gonna pick Michael's brain more about that, but I think that what it started out being was rides for when you need somebody there to pick you up from that procedure. Like Janet mentioned, sometimes a colonoscopy, whatever, they're not gonna release you to a cab or an Uber.
Right.
It has to be a person. And I think that's what it started. And then when it switched over to CADA getting the grant and paying for it during COVID, because everybody was scrambling to try to figure out how to do everything. And then it, and you know how it kind of progressed. Then then the city started to kind of give me a little bit of a budget to work with CADA and cover those rides. And still with not stuff like in writing about what it is and what it isn't. So we've been finding, Natalia came in and brought to my attention a number of instances where we, because of the way conversations unfolded and because we know people's circumstances, where we know that they're now coming to us for any kind of medical appointment ride that they need because we're the path of least resistance. They've got loved ones who could drive them to that appointment, but they don't want to ask. The senior center does it for free. So why am I going to inconvenience my loved one? It's not what it was ever intended to be. And we don't have the resources for that. So I had a nice conversation with Suzanne Egan about the matter. And she gave me some suggestions about how to kind of word it. So I'm going to be taking a crack at that right away. To get some kind of, we're going to call them program guidelines. And we need to scale back what that program offers. Now, so exciting that, thank you, Barry, for getting Janet here, because in my mind, we scale that back and I'm thinking, well, what about this other need though? You know what I mean? Clearly, how fair is it to ask a municipality to ride this? You know what I mean? But there is more need, you know, but that speaks to, boy, wouldn't it be great to get something like Friendship Works going here? But so just to give the board the heads up that I'm going to be working on a document guidelines to what our rides program is, our medical rides program is, what it isn't. And it needs to be scaled back because it's creeping and creeping and creeping. And then people hear, well, I heard you brought this one to, you know, well, I need to go to, you know, and just stuff that's just not even, you know,
Janet also seemed to soft pedal the issue of liability for volunteers driving.
oh, definitely. I would call it soft pedaling that for
Way
sure.
back.
Which kills me. It's so interesting that our friends organization had the opinion that they couldn't run it as volunteers anymore because it was too much of a liability issue, even though the city assured them that it would all be covered under the city's umbrella policy. But you know, they know better than Janet, obviously. That's sarcasm. Sorry, never helpful. But anyway.
And recorded for
But
posterity.
anyway, right. What? I don't even care anymore. I just don't even care with them. But
Hey, Elise,
so yeah.
when you're talking about and you're thinking about your transportation guidelines, rules,
Yeah.
I would think about if you want to charge a fare. I don't know how the money handling would happen here with the
Mhm.
senior center, but I would consider if you can get over that hump of cash coming in, I would consider collecting a fare.
We would need to set up an enterprise account, which is doable.
Yeah.
It puts more administrative burden on Michael and that, so there's that question, but yeah, that's been discussed and we would need an enterprise fund. And how is the board okay with that? Because one of the first things that I encountered with this board when I took this position was a vote that said that we are not going to charge for things.
That's right, and that is still true.
Yeah.
That is still true. This would have to be,
How about donate what you can?
or
Yeah.
the way you structured this, if it was outside of it being a senior center program, would be attractive.
If it was outside of being a senior center program, that would be incredible. That would be an incredible game changer. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited about Friendship Works and Janet, she seems like just a great leader, like
Yeah.
too, just really, really incredible. So, I'm trying to think about just other things for the director's report. I think, Rosalie touched on just a lot of the cool things that we've got coming up. We're gonna try to, we're shooting to have some live music at the Christmas party, just to kind of change it up. We do Scotty Mac a lot, but it's
Yeah.
nice to do live music for Christmas, I think. And of course, the singing firemen will stop by, yeah, so I think that's it, unless, does anyone have any other questions?
Barry, I read the stuff for the Essex County Habitat for Humanity. I do think this is something that ought to go in the research journal, but there are guidelines.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a little bit of outreach first, though, because they were initially at the St. John's Church. Well, just St. John's Churches, they've hosted a number of very good organizations to come there, use their space to represent their office, if you will. But I noticed that they went from St. John's, kind of disappeared, and now they've reinvented themselves as Essex County.
Yeah.
I kind of like what we did with Janet. Maybe ask them to come and talk to us first and just find out how viable
What Janet,
Habitat for Humanity,
what Janet has done is given them consistency for 40 years.
40 years.
Whereas St. John's, I think, is now on their third or fourth pastor in the last 10.
And they've had multiple agencies using a room or two to do good things
Get it off the ground and then.
You know, Habitat for Humanity, to
Yeah.
me, is a wonderful organization. They do great things, but are they for real or not?
So
They're
if
they're
I
talking
would love
about
to
doing
speak to
it for
that.
seniors.
Yeah.
I would love to speak to that.
I have another meeting I have to be at.
Oh,
Isn't
with
that
Susan
where the Grace
Rosalie.
Center was?
Susan Rosalie.
But thank you, Rosalie. So when I launched Family Promise North Shore Boston, one of the members of my board was the president of Habitat for Humanity of the North Shore. And I don't think it was Essex County. I think it was the North Shore, but I could be wrong. It could have been Essex County, or maybe it's changed. His name is escaping me right now, but I want to say his first name at least was Bob. It was the gentleman that used to own Casa de Moda in Beverly for many, many years, a beloved place. Casa de Moda was the bomb. And his wife is Jan. It was Bob and Jan.
Jan was a director with me at HAS.
Right. But you know who I mean, Bob and
Yes, I
Jan
do.
from Casa de Moda.
Look 'em
So
up.
we, Family Promise North Shore Boston, had this connection on our board, which was great. And they came in when we found a space on Rantoul Street for our day center to be, because that program model needs a day center where the families go during the day to get their casework services and do laundry and shower and live, because they're sleeping at night in churches. And they did the whole build out. They, Habitat for Humanity, went and got the pro bono architects to come in and give them a plan. They came in with crews, they did demo, they built everything. It was beautiful in that day center. So depending on one of the things that's kind of fuzzy to me is just Habitat for Humanity's structure, kind of. Is there an Essex County? Is there also a North Shore? What's their affiliate structure look like? Which one was Bob and Jan? But they are for real. What? Preston, Bob and Jan Preston, exactly. So, and didn't he give me, I would love to interact with him again. He used to rib me about Gloucester being like the skids or something so much. And I'd be like, come on, Bob. But it was funny. We'd give it to each other. It was
I
very fun.
think they're in a lovely place in Nassau at the moment.
I also know that Habitat for Humanity works with the city, with Community Development Department.
Yeah.
Because when our very own Jennifer Lee had a giant tree fall on her house in a really bad storm about a year ago, maybe a little more, she was eligible for all kinds of assistance, here and there. It's making her crazy, but she's working with somebody in ComDev to help her with kind of funds that are for that, or a tree falling on your house. And a lot of the work that she's having done to repair the damage to her house is by one of those Habitat for Humanity entities, either Essex County, North Shore, whatever the case may be. I can get more information from Jennifer Lee on that, but I think those two things speak a little bit to whether or not they're for real.
Is the head of this a division, but it would be a director who would come to speak with us?
Again, the telephone number was in the newspaper. We all have copies of that.
I looked it up.
We called them and invite them to the January meeting.
Yeah.
And just say, tell us about which was helping seniors and how you can help seniors. And just see what comes out of them.
You're already batting 1,000. Would you do that?
I gotta find that telephone number.
Yeah, I gotta go. I
I
won't be
got-
here for
Yeah,
January.
give me that, because
Thanks,
I'll be
Susan.
away 2 hours.
I'm gonna be sorry.
Are you going sailing?
To the person from the
No,
committee that was in
Since
the
I
January.
broke- Since I broke my.
Can you ask
the
if
boys don't want to
there
take
is an
me
Essex
sailing.
County and a North Shore?
They don't trust me. They don't want to spend
My lips
another
are sealed
holiday
there. I hope you have a
on the
blast.
hospital.
Yeah, have a good time.
We're off to St. Bart, so we'll see.
The food.
That's gonna be terrible.
Yeah, we've
Red
been
roofs.
there before.
Red roofs.
Oh, it looks lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We loved it last time, so
mean,
we're looking forward to
Have a
it.
great, that's gonna be when we meet in January, you won't be here?
Yeah, we're going
you.
earlier this year. We don't have to worry about Patriots beating the playoffs or anything.
Not after last week.
All right, thank you, Susan.
Right there.
Well, usually
Safe
the
travels.
boys say, we're not going because until such and such a date, so we watch the last playoff game down there and then we get home after the Super Bowl highs. But no problems.
Yeah.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
Bye.
Most of this, I think we can just plow over. Michael Hale is aware that there's going to be an added, some kind of a swinging door. Otherwise, this list is pretty much the same and that chugs along mercifully. The next meeting is Wednesday, January the 8th at 9:30. Once everybody's okay with that? You away? That's two.
I'm leaving on the seventh.
That's two, not here, for quorum. Well, we'll do best we can.
But if Betty and Suzanne are here, then that makes up for those two.
Okay,
So
well,
I won't be here January, February, or March.
wonderful. Where are you going?
can you zoom in?
I'm gonna, hopefully I can, yes.
Can you zoom in, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm only going to Fort Myers,
Oh,
but,
yeah, you could, yeah, maybe you could give us,
Yeah.
Let's go.
maybe you could be on the big screen.
wonderful. Do I only have to dress from the top up?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun part about being on the big screen.
I forget I'm all in my underwear. Okay, are we about done? This is one marathon meeting.
Yes. Oh, good stuff,
Thank you
though.
all very much. Okay, motion to adjourn. Barry, for the second.
Michelle,
Michelle,
yes.
thank you. All those in favor, aye. We are
Aye.
adjourned and the time is what?
Can I ask you a question?
The time is 11:29.
11:29.
Yes,
Position.
please. Yes.
Bye, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Thanks so much. Feel better.
Thank you. Thanks, Elise.
You raised the issue of the insurance.
Yeah.